I was able to use 2 mentors when I was a mentee, and I was a flight instructor. Something to be said there is that you don't have all the answers. There's no way you can have all the answers right away. And for me, when I was a flight instructor, I was convinced I was going to go fly private jets. I was going to go to business aviation, fly corporate.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they are taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
Hey, pilot, welcome to the show. It's another Monday interview, and you've got me, Nick Fialka, and today we're talking to Jessica Ortega from Professional Pilots of Tomorrow. It is a really awesome organization that reaches out and helps get people interested in aviation and keep them interested and provide mentorship. So if you are a person who is considering aviation as a career and want to know about our industry, Professional Pilots of Tomorrow is an awesome organization. Before we get into that, we are going to have a bonus interview with Timothy P. Pope. Tim is our sponsor, and he is a financial planner, and we talk a lot about all the ins and outs of where we are right now in the tax world and all the things to think about with new contracts and all sorts of good stuff. So over to Tim.
Hey, thanks, Nick. And before we get started, I think I should say the things that I'm about to say are not specific financial advice for anybody's circumstances. So, if you're a pilot out there trying to figure out what to do on the topics we talk about today, certainly, complete your own due diligence, work with an advisor, but don't just take, the word on the show and run with that.
All right, here we are sitting down with Tim Pope, my favorite financial planner and really cool sponsor of the show. Dude, what's up?
How's it going, Nick? Great to be here with you.
Yeah, man, I am so stoked. I love having you on. We're going to talk about some really cool financial things that affect pilots today. And number one, we're in tax season. So if I'm a pilot and taxes are important to me, what do I need to be thinking about right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it is tax season, which means most of the things that you have in relation to taxes, that they've already happened, right? So we like to be forward looking when it comes to our tax planning versus kind of that rear view in the mirror, upload all my docs to my CPA, tell me what I owe. So in that vein of forward looking, a lot of things that I think that super saver pilots should be aware of, right, is that old rule of thumb, which is, hey, let's max out my pre-tax account today because in the future, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. If you're a super saver, that rule of thumb doesn't apply to you. And here's what I mean. If you're a super saver, and here's the definition, you are maxing out every tax-deferred, tax advantage account that you have access to. You're probably doing it to your spouse, and you're probably looking for other ways to save or invest money as well. That's a super saver. Not everybody is one, and that's okay. But if you are one, what happens is your portfolio you're going to get to a critical mass at some point where a 7, 8, 9% return on your portfolio is going to give you way more dollars than you would have made in a full year of flying, right? So that's why we can't assume that all I need to do is, load up on the pre-tax side of things, and then in retirement, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket.
Yeah, that is so interesting. So what if I'm kind of new to it and a lot of this stuff is like confusing or setting this stuff up? Like when I think about savings and things like that, I get a little anxious. I get a little nervous about, am I doing the right thing? Everybody's situation is different. I'm a parent and a spouse, and I have a wife that is raising children and not working, and I'm trying to get all of this money organized, especially as new contracts are coming up and airlines are negotiating stuff. Section 6 is finishing. So here I am going forward, and I've got a whole new horizon, right? How do you start sorting all that out?
I love that question because you bring in real life, right? So here's theory, here's real life. The answer is it's going to change, and that's okay. So I know that we're both fans of the 21.5 show. What do they say? Flexibility is the key to air power. Flexibility is the key to tax planning as well. So when you talk about, hey, I'm just starting out, the metrics that we look at, if you think that your future tax rate is going to be higher than what it is now, it probably makes sense for you to invest in Roth dollars, right? If you think that it's going to be lower than where you are now, then it makes sense to do pre-tax, right? Let me take a tax deduction, let those dollars grow and compound, and then I'm going to pay less tax than what I got the tax deduction for. So that makes sense. If you think it's going to be the same, your tax bracket now and in the future, if you think they're going to be the same, then mathematically it doesn't matter whether you go Roth or traditional. So to your point, bringing it back to real life, let's say I'm just starting out. My bracket is kind of low. I'm probably going to do Roth dollars at that point. Let's say I start to earn more money. My bracket is increasing. I have to figure out whether I'm going to do pre-tax or Roth or a combination of both. Things like marriage. If you're a high earner and you're single, you get no favors in the tax code. All of a sudden you get married. Let's say your spouse, we're just going to say, our wives are right there raising kids. Mine is doing the same thing. So you've got that single income, right? So, all of a sudden your tax bracket changes. You could still be in the Roth bucket. Or conversely, you get married and you're doing really well. Your wife is doing really well. Your bracket goes way up. Now we switch to the pre-tax side. Or the opposite side of that is you're married and you get divorced. You're back in the single high income bracket, right? And so we switch. So I think you can see that I think when guys are looking at everything and they're feeling stressed, it might be because they're feeling like, hey, I've got to get this right. And once I lock it in, I can't change. When in reality, your life is going to change. And then so should your tax strategy. That should change as well. And it's not a one or done. You can make these elections as you crunch the numbers. If you figure out, oops, I made a mistake, and just fix it.
Yeah, I think about another part, and you'll remember a couple of weeks ago, I sent you a text message, a 3-way text with one of my friends who is a captain upgrade. He is at Delta, and he's a new hire, and he's upgrading to the 757 as a captain in year 1. And he's single, and he and I were talking, and he's like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have this extra money. And so I sent him over to you. There are a ton of men and women out there that are facing this situation. So what do we tell them?
Yeah. So the interesting thing that they have on their side is time, right? So, with particularly at Delta, right? So you guys just passed a contract. You've got the direct contributions going to be up to 18% by 2024, something like that. So, and then you also have the ability now to determine whether those employer contributions are going to be Roth or pre-tax. So he has time on his side. So think about that critical mass that I just talked about in terms of his portfolio. He has determined, how large is that going to be and how much of that is going to be, spun out in retirement. And so for a young guy in his 30s, that could be hard to do. Spun out in retirement as pre-tax contributions that he's going to have to pay tax on. So the other thing that I would have a young guy like that do is also consider a tax managed brokerage account, right? So that's going to be dollars where there's going to be no strings attached coming in, coming out. But again, that critical mass, if he can have those dollars invested where in a tax efficient manner to where it's not spitting out 2 to 3% dividends every year. So where he's not getting capital gains, adding to his taxable income, that would be appropriate. There's other things that he can do, which is looking for outside investment opportunities, outside of the capital markets. That could be businesses that he could invest in and things like that.
Podcasts, they should invest in podcasts.
Yep. Podcasts, you can invest in car washes, coin laundry.
Coin laundry.
No, but yeah, so on an actual business with real property, that could be an option. But then looking beyond the 401ks into a tax managed brokerage account is another option as well.
Yeah, we're coming down to is the fact that this year is the year to get offensive about your savings and get involved. And if you're defensive or passive, you're going to get run over by the tax man. So give Tim a call and take that relationship to the next level. That is what we're telling you, because it's the right way. He's a pilot, you're a pilot, he gets you, he understands you. Before I let you go, I want to talk about all of these crazy contracts. I just heard about Republic suing like 5 or 7 pilots, and I could talk to you all day about it, but we have these big contracts that are coming out, like $100,000 for 3 years worth of flying and stuff like that. Should a pilot take that? Should they defer it? What should a pilot do when they're faced with one of these big checks?
Well, that's a great question. Whether they take it or not, because I think that's mixed in with some career advice. I'm going to leave that to you and Spitfire, right? But what I will tell you, and we've been advising clients on this exact topic, is if you take it, then and you decide to move on, to a major, do it with your eyes wide open.
You mean like quit? Like if I'm going to take the money and then quit later before I'm at the end of the contract?
Correct. Okay. So if that's, and again, I'm not going to tell you not to go to a major, right? I'm sure you have an opinion there. But if you do that, you want to do it with eyes wide open, right? And so here's what I mean. Some of these contracts, some of them do pay you just right out of the gate. But then some of them spread your pay, the bonus over. So it might be like $40,000 a year for 3 years. And these contracts have these 2-year tails. So each bonus has a 2-year tail. So, if you are, say, in year 2 of getting bonus money before you get your offer from your major, you could owe 80, 90 grand, right? Don't assume they're not going to ask you for the money. The contract says it's due within 30 days, right? And that 80, 90 grand that you've gotten in bonus money, you got the after-tax portion. And the company is going to want the tax, all of it. The after tax plus the tax portion. So what we're advising clients to do is if you know you're going to make this move, do it with eyes wide open. Let's go ahead and find cash. Where's cash available in your life, right? Let's understand the cost of that cash. Let's also look at the break-even point when you get to your new place. So you're going to get smacked in the short term, but it's for your greater good. And here's where the break-even point is, and here's where you can feel good about that. So those are a few things that and here's the other thing. If you're thinking about making that move and you got a bonus coming up, you've already signed the paperwork accepting it, save it. Save that bonus in a bank account. Like, don't go spend that because you've got some moves to make.
Yeah, I think so. And I agree with you. If you are taking that bonus because you need it to survive, you probably have other things to have a conversation about, and you probably need to call me and we'll chat about it. But Tim, man, this is great. I really appreciate the information. And I know you wanted to tell me about a friend of yours who's doing really great things. Can you give me some information real quick?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. So there's a friend of mine who owns a company, Flight Crew Homes, and full disclosure, I don't get anything from this mention at all. But I do think it's a public service announcement for pilots, right? So Flight Crew Homes helps pilots with their real estate. So if you got awarded in base or something like that, you're going to change, you're going to buy a second home, whatever it is, go to Flight Crew Homes, look for a realtor in your area that's been vetted by this company. And then the interesting thing about the realtors that work with Flight Crew Homes is that they've agreed to give the pilot a portion of their commission back to the pilot's closing costs. So, if you're doing a $500,000 house, maybe that's $2 or $3 grand towards closing costs. And with interest rates in the mortgage space have skyrocketed over the past year, I figured I'd mention that to everybody. So, a couple dollars back in your pocket can't hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. Any chance we can. Pilots are notoriously cheap, and that's just kind of how we roll. We got to have another boat. So Flight Crew Homes, we got it, man. And I'll tell you what, if you want to get offensive and you want to start moving forward, this is the year to do it. So Timothy P. Pope. You'll hear all the ads coming up next. But thank you so much for joining us, Tim. We'll see you back here in a couple months.
All right. Thanks, Nick. Great to be here.
Hey, pilot. It's Nick. I want to tell you about a great friend of the show, Timothy P. Pope. He's a financial planner, and he's completely focused on the professional pilot. He's the kind of guy you want to go to for real talk to help you figure out your financial future. With so many upgrades and so many transitions and so many things going on, you owe it to yourself to give him a call. He'll help you design and execute really smart financial planning strategies, whether it's retirement planning, investment management, military transition, tax planning. He's a great financial planning partner. Timothy P. Pope, CFP, helping professional pilots make the most out of life. Give him a shout. All the information's in the show notes. You should definitely tell him I told you to call. All right, pilot. I'm with Jessica Ortega, and she is with Professional Pilots of Tomorrow. How are you, Jessica?
I'm good. How's it going, Nick? It's really good to see you.
It is awesome to see you. Full confession, I am friends with Jess, and she and I have known each other for a while. I love what she does, and I'm excited to tell you guys about it. Jess, okay, first off, why don't you tell it real quick, like 30-second snapshot of you?
Of me. So my name is Jessica. I'm 27 years old. I live in Brooklyn, New York, based out of New York City. I'm a first officer for Delta Airlines. Originally from Fort Lauderdale. I love cycling. I love my houseplants. But what I really, really love is increasing diversity in aviation. So I think that's why I'm here today.
All right. And also, let's say she is a 27-year-old female at Delta Airlines who's a first officer until March. And then what happens in March?
In March, I'll be going for my upgrade training, actually. So on the 7.5, on the 7.6 out of New York, I'm so excited.
As a 27-year-old, going to be a wide-body captain at Delta Airlines. It's so awesome. That is so exciting.
It's super exciting, a little nerve-wracking, I'm not going to lie, but I think it's the best job ever. And so why not bring it to the next step?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. That's great. All right. So Professional Pilots of Tomorrow, why don't you tell the pilot that's listening about the organization and what you guys do?
Yeah, so the organization was started a few years ago, I want to say only 6 years ago, by 3 pilots that were making their way through the regional airline industry, and they were just overwhelmed with the amount of information. So they kind of came together and created this organization, and all that we're trying to do is harness the power of mentorship. It's just pilot-to-pilot relationships at the core of what we do, but we also have a lot of additional resources to basically help a pilot navigate this awesome industry that we're all in. With the wealth of information, we just want to help pilots make sense of it, and your mentor, that if you sign up, will be able to help you see what journey that you can have to your dream job. And we have lots of resources such as a regional airline comparison chart. We compile a lot of cool low-time flying opportunities for people that want an alternative to instructing, and just really cool partnerships, scholarships, all that good stuff. So it's a really great organization that helped me out as a flight instructor and was a big part of the journey of why I'm at where I am today.
So you speak with people kind of in the beginning of their career and kind of that midpoint of their career. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, pretty much if you're interested in aviation or already up to a flight instructor, pretty much, you can get a mentor. The mentorship doesn't stop when you become a mentor because, you know, all my friends within the organization were able to help me get to mainline. But once you go across the line of now being a professional pilot, pretty much an airline pilot, then you get to mentor somebody else. So yeah, to answer your question, to become a mentee, all you need to be is interested or kind of still shopping around or flight training or making your way through the industry.
Yeah. So you have to figure out flight training first. What advice do you give people when it comes to figuring out like, okay, I did a discovery flight or I'm interested in flying. Like, how do I figure this out? Where do I start?
Yeah. Where do you start? It's just, I think step one is kind of going on a discovery flight. So you're already well on your way. Your next step is to then kind of get plugged in to see what kind of flight schools you're looking for. And then that will kind of depend on what your program will look like. So if you want a flight school in your area, you can just go to the closest flight school. If you are willing to move to find would be more advantageous, that would be cool too. So there's a couple.
Can you explain that? Like, okay, so what's more advantageous? Like if I lived in Mississippi and there was a flight school, like what would be more advantageous about going somewhere else?
Yeah, so there are some other programs such as ATP that are super accelerated. They have a program where you pretty much dedicate 6 days out of the week, if not 7 days out of the week, and you can pretty much be 0 to hero in like 2 years. So
What's Hero?
Hero is pretty much to the airlines. If you really, dedicate yourself to flying. I mean, I have a friend, I love speaking about her, but she made it from 0 hours to Delta Airlines in 5 years. And she was a product of ATP. But definitely take some hustling. There is some advantages to going to a school like that that's well accelerated so that you're able to really stay recurrent and you can really hit it hard and get it all done really quick.
I guess when you look at, I live in the small town where I am, where there's a local flight school, or I could travel and go spend some money for this program. I guess the thing you're getting out of that is it's a structured, rigid flight school that is going to get you. They know how to keep you moving and fill your cup full of knowledge at the rate that you can handle. Is that what it would look like?
Yeah, pretty much. So that's a really good point, Nick, of two different paths. So you'll hear about schools that fall under what's called Part 61, and you'll have schools that also fall under Part 141. And so the ATP that I described, that would be Part 141. It's a very rigid program that's FAA approved, and it takes you through all the different hoops that you need to jump through. If you go to a mom and pop flight school, that'll be a little bit more fluid. So I was an instructor at both types of schools. Part 61 is kind of more of a one-on-one relationship with you and your flight instructor, just depending on what your schedule is. It kind of depends on what pace you need and kind of what you need. There's no strict curriculum. Part 141 has a structured curriculum. I think that would be the big difference.
Got it. So you could go as fast as you two could work it out in a Part 61, but in the 141, it's relatively organized and they're really moving forward.
Correct.
Okay. That makes good sense. And so you and PPOT, you guys kind of lay all that out, but also help them along the way. How do you influence them once they're in flight school?
Once they're in flight school, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a one-on-one relationship. So when I was talking with my mentee, she's a wonderful woman. She lives out in Los Angeles and she's currently a corporate pilot. But she was going through her flight instructing, and especially when I was a student, I just needed someone to kind of cheer me on. There's going to be lots of highs and lows in flight training. You can excel. For me, instrument came fairly easy to me, but when it came to commercial, I hit a really, really bad plateau. And so I was always there kind of keeping up with her, my mentee, and encouraging her. Maybe things aren't working out. Maybe your mentor can kind of give you a different perspective, but just kind of being a cheerleader and then helping lay the groundwork on the different options once you're in flight school. There's a couple of different ways to kind of position yourself to be successful once you want to become maybe a flight instructor or explore other options like that. So just having another pair of eyes, just having another perspective outside of your immediate bubble within your flight school is always useful.
All right. So on the spot, can you talk to me a little in depth about what a struggle is like what you're struggling with the commercial, like when you plateaued or when you were just having like a really hard time, like what was going on and like at what point did you need to how did you flush through that?
Yeah. Oof. So commercial single engine was the short field landings. It was either short field landings or power off 180s. They're pretty similar maneuvers, but pretty much for whatever reason, it was just a bad month for me doing short field landings. I kept on floating or wasn't judging it correctly, had to go around. And I remember it being like 4 or 5 flights and me making zero progress. And I was so frustrated. My instructor was amazing. He was super encouraging, but it went to 5th debrief where I knew what was coming. I knew I still wasn't up to standards and I just started crying. One of the very few times I've ever felt so frustrated, but I was pretty much telling him through my tears, like, I know this is fair. I'm just really frustrated with myself. I know what I need to do, but it's just not working for me. And he's like, you know what? We're supposed to fly in 2 days. Just take the whole weekend off. Let's take, maybe 4 days off. Really don't worry about it. Like, just relax. And so, he was really encouraging, but I was still really frustrated. There was no way around the fact that I needed to get this done and it wasn't working for me. And so I took the time off. I was able to kind of decompress and lean to my mentors. I had my dad as a mentor. I had my friends that were also dealing with their commercials, some flight instructors. And I kind of reached out to them and I'm like, hey guys, this isn't working for me. What should I do? And then I think they gave me a different perspective. And then for whatever reason, the next week ended up working. I just got a little bit better, just a little bit better. until I was finally able to get it. But yeah, it was just kind of breaks you when you hit a plateau, and that'll happen to everyone at some point in their flight training phase of being a pilot. And it sucks. It sucks. I had to deal with that, trying to encourage my students when I was a flight instructor because I saw them go through frustrations. And it's just, you just got to trust the process. Eventually you'll get out of it, and you'll just keep on moving on. But it stinks whenever it does happen.
I think that's a really good point. And I think that this is important for the pilot to know that, like, even the Blue Angels, right? Even the Thunderbirds, like everybody, people struggle. And you will have that time in your life where it feels like that mountain is too hard to climb. And, there's so much riding on it. Think about this. Like when you're a flight student and you look at, hey, I want to be a captain in a wide body at Delta Airlines, or I want to fly for UPS or FedEx or whoever, whatever your dream job is, when you don't make the cut, that is so difficult and so crushing, but you can get past it. Like you can, and you can be good enough. You need confidence. You need decompression, and you need patience with yourself. You need to give yourself grace, I think. And once you can do that, like, don't slack. You got to come 110%, but you have to give yourself the grace to make mistakes. I think that's such an important idea.
And it's really important to tell these stories and share these stories with your peers, with other pilots, because no one's a perfect pilot. There's no such thing as a perfect pilot. And we all struggled in our own way, whether silently or, I was able to kind of lean on my friends and my network. But yeah, we all struggle for sure.
I mean, just think about that. When you're in the interview room and you're standing around in your suit full with 15 or 20 other pilots, and everybody's like trying to talk about how amazing they are and how they're the best thing ever, when in fact, like, we're all broken. We've all struggled so hard. We're so fortunate just to have like kept pursuing. And I think that's it. Don't quit. You deserve to work, and you deserve the fruit of that work. And that is, I see it all the time. I get so many phone calls from so many people. A lot of people want to talk about, oh, how do I get to this place that I want to go? But I have a big pot of people that are like, I've made these mistakes in my life, and how do I overcome my mistakes? And like that vulnerability, that's tough. That's tough. Gosh. So you were involved when you were in flight school, you became a mentee. Yep. And who was your mentor? Who was the person that kind of helped you through?
Yeah, I ended up getting two mentors just through the way that they handed each other off. But I was able to use two mentors when I was a mentee. And I was a flight instructor. I think there's something to be said there, is that you don't have all the answers. There's no way you can have all the answers right away. And for me, when I was a flight instructor, I was convinced I was going to go fly private jets. I was going to go to business aviation, fly corporate. I was a president of the student club. I went to every single conference. I was like, team corporate.
Of course you were the president. Unbelievable. It's exactly who you are.
Oh, yeah. So I was, the biggest cheerleader, and I started just kind of asking around. It was time for me to start interviewing, looking at all my friends going to the regionals. I was asking my mentors, hey, why did you pick the regionals you went to? And my two mentors were at Horizon and Compass, respectively. And this is where I want to live. There's two companies that are doing really well. They have a good union. I think I'll get the schedule I want. This is what seniority means. And they were kind of breaking it down why it was a good fit for them. And all of them kind of talking to me, and my friends and my mentors included, essentially told me the message in so many words that, you'd be dumb not to go to the airlines. Knowing the kind of person I am, knowing the kind of traveling that I want to do, what I wanted my life to look like, they're like, Jessica, you really should go to the airlines. So I kind of gave a little bit more thought to that. I went to a few regional airline interviews and ended up working out. I mean, I had found Republic Airways kind of like at the last minute. It kind of fit with what I wanted my life to look like, which was living in Brooklyn, New York. I really wanted to have a little bit of control of my schedule, so gain a little bit more seniority. The Embraer 175 wasn't a bad gig either, but it all worked out for me. And it was that outside perspective of, talking to people that weren't inside my bubble as to why they chose the way that they went. And it really worked out for me at the end.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. The first part is talking outside your bubble. Because if you're surrounding yourself with people that all think the same thing, if you're, you wanted to go corporate, if you were hanging out with only the people that did corporate and not going outside of yourself, that's where it's just an echo chamber, right? It's just like turning on politics on the television. It's just people saying the thing that their group wants them to say, and getting a diversity of perspective. Mm-hmm. Gosh, that is so important, because you don't know what you don't know. Whether you want to go to Republic and fly the Embraer 175, which is a sweet little jet and probably the nicest thing you'll fly until you're in the 350.
Yeah.
But or if you want to go corporate or whatever, or you want to join the military, everybody thinks they know what they want, but you need to gain perspective. You need to talk to multiple sources, and you need to talk to people that are older than you and people that are your same age. If there are people that are younger than you, you can get good input from them, but there's so many paths. Gosh, there's so many paths. Do you guys see that? It's not just airline guys, right? Like you guys have everything. What is that like?
We have a little bit of everyone. So a really amazing resource, speaking on the, gaining different perspectives. When you become a member of PPOT, you have access to our mentorship directory, which is just a list of phone number, airline, and email address. So you have access. I'm not sure how many people are on it, but it's pretty much most of our mentors. And we have 700 mentors in every single corner of the industry. Yeah, so you can get a mentor who's local to your area, or you can get a mentor, you say your dream job is FedEx. Hey, let me reach out to someone who's at UPS just to see what kind of their perspective is. You have the ability and access to all these people that have put their name on the list saying, hey, I'm willing to answer any questions. So that's another perk that a lot of people don't know about with PPOT.
Yeah. And so you are, let me say this right, Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when I became a mentor, as a result of NGPA 2020, we saw the need for a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion department. So I was able to start
National
that up.
Gay Pilots Association, right?
National Gay Pilots Association. Perfect. Yep. There's so many acronyms in this business.
I know, we're full of them. Oh my God. That's half my podcast is just me like digesting acronyms.
So it doesn't stop in the diversity space. So we have all these great minority organizations that we wanted to partner with, and not, a department to get that going. So I was able to kind of get that started about a year and a half ago. And all we're trying to do is kind of increasing the connections with every minority organization out there. So National Gay Pilots Association, Organization for Black Aerospace Professionals, Female Aviators Sticking Together are all great organizations that you can be part of all of them at the same time, really, if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
And they all have different strengths. So Latino Pilots Association, I find a community with my fellow Latinos there.
That's right.
PPOT, our specialty is mentorship. So we try to make sure that they're all active relationships and we can work hand in hand with all these different organizations. So I was able to build it out to be pretty much this team of liaisons that are PPOT members and, let's say, women in aviation members already. And her job is to kind of let me know, like, how can we best serve this organization? How can we best promote their scholarships? How can we be the one-stop shop so that any PPOT member at least knows about all these different organizations? So we go to all the conferences, and but now is really an exciting time since with a little bit of leadership changes, I'm now the Vice President of Industry Relations and DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So I'm just here trying to reach out to all the different airlines, and I've been really excited to be talking to the diversity teams within all these different airlines. So speaking with United and Delta and FedEx, they have all put out an effort to make sure that they are supporting their minority aviators that are already in there. They're making their whole pilot group and all the employee group better allies, and figuring out how to make the barrier to entry a little bit lower for minorities and pretty much anyone. At the end of the day, this is a staffing issue. This is a pilot problem. We want the best group of pilots flying for us, and getting that diversity of thought makes us better crews, all working together.
Absolutely. And so Spitfire, our focus, number one, like we started based on the lack of diversity in aviation.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm the 6'4" white guy, like we, Tron, the guy that owns Spitfire, he's a black guy, and anytime we have a female aviator, like it's like she's a unicorn. She's our unicorn. Like let's get her into the airlines and wherever she fits best and she wants to be. And I have a lot of C-suite executives that listen to this podcast, and diving into that, getting that diversity of thought, creating, like fostering the growth of aviation in a diverse group of people will make that company so much better and so much stronger and give you great, strong organization that will last for a long time. So I'm a huge proponent of that. And I think that's very exciting. I'll never forget. So Jess and I met in a hotel, and I'm always the talker, and Jess is a talker too. So it's a perfect thing. But we're sitting down having a beer, chatting, and she just said the most awesome thing that I'll never forget. She's like, I want there to be more pilots that look like me. I was like, hell yeah, that's right. Exactly. That's exactly it. Because everybody looks like me in aviation. 98.7% look like me. And I think we need that broad brushstroke. My life in the military, the people from every inch of the globe. And so that to me is something that really resonates. So if you're flying and you meet me in a plane, in the airport, wherever, and you tell me that you want to fly and you are a person that is really into it, I am going to get your phone number and I'm going to connect you with Jess, because that's what I do, right?
Yeah.
How many people have we done that to?
Ooh, I think 2 or 3 people. And it's really awesome because I've been handing out my business card a ton. Like, people want it. And sometimes they don't know that they want it, or they don't know that it's even possible. I mean, got me in the industry. Growing up, my dad was a pilot the whole time, but it wasn't until I met his friend, who's a Latina female corporate pilot, who just got her G600 type rating, by the way, which is super cool. She looks like me. And I was like, oh my gosh, light bulb moment. No duh, I can be a pilot. So visibility is so important. And that's a big part of why I do the work that I do. But the effort that Spitfire puts together, the effort of going to all these conferences is all just trying to make it so it's more inclusive. Like, we want, I don't want to be the unicorn anymore. I want to, be hanging out with a 6'5" white guy, but also be hanging out with like a black guy as part of my crew, and just not even being a second thought. At the end of the day, we're a better crew. We have better CRM because of it. And
for sure,
we can all lift each other up for sure.
Yeah. We need a herd of unicorns. Like a whole herd.
We're coming. Once you go to these conferences, you're like, oh wait, there's a lot of us here. We just need to find each other. And when the stars align, we all get to fly with each other. But the numbers are increasing, and it's making me really excited and giving me a lot of hope.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's kind of the future of PPOT? Like, what do you see over the next, that we are on the first half of this hiring wave, right? As 2022 ends and 2023 begins, what do you foresee with PPOT?
PPOT, growth, man. We have 1,700 members right now, with a lot of people that want to help. There's a lot of pilots that want to mentor, because, we were in your shoes not long ago. And, it's great to help people out. I guess more on the business side, we got a cool new website coming that'll optimize our mentorship pairings. If you're a new mentee, we're going to have the tools to be able to match you with a black pilot that works for UPS, and having all that data, making sure that we're getting our numbers up, because we have the opportunity, and Spitfire has the opportunity to kind of be the example of what we want the industry to look like. So if I'm able to influence, 1,700 pilots, this is how you're a good ally. This is how you can encourage the next generation. That kind of just spreads. That thought will spread for sure. Increasing our partnerships with different airlines. I've been really having good connections with the diversity teams at different airlines to hopefully get more scholarships out of that, to once again lower that barrier to entry. Yeah, we'll be at all the conferences. PPOT is just getting bigger and bigger. And if we can be that one-stop shop to take advantage of all these different great organizations that have other different specialties. We have a mentee. We're like, hey, thanks for joining PPOT, but also check out, Professional Asian Pilots Association, or check out these women organizations. Like, oh, we have these scholarships here for you, and just kind of be able to lead the way. And so, yeah, we're just trying to help future pilots.
Yeah. We're reaching a point now where there is an organization for you. If you want to tie in and find that spot where you fit well, we are getting just so many great organizations, and it's an awesome thing. Talk to me about scholarships. Can you talk to that a little bit? I sit here and think, as a pilot, I don't even know what's out there. So talk to me about this.
Oh my gosh. Scholarships is probably the one thing, if I were to relive all my flight training, that I could have totally taken advantage of more. The power of scholarships is incredible. Obviously, you get the money to kind of help you along, but the different opportunities that it can open up to you. So I like to tell a story of one of my girlfriends in college. She wasn't a pilot, but she was still an engineer at a very expensive school, to be frank. And she was able to pay off $150,000 purely with scholarships because she hustled. The way she did it is that she told herself every single day that she was going to apply to 3 scholarships. Whoa. Doesn't matter from where, not only from the school. I mean, my other friend, he got a scholarship for being left-handed. He got like $1,000 from that. And
That's awesome.
And if you think about it, the effort you put into these scholarships is what, a 500-word essay? And what can be on the other side of that? A $30,000 scholarship where you get flown out, you get to go meet all these cool aviation influencers, not influencers, but icons, I should say, all because you wrote a really cool essay. Like, divide out the money per word is the most effective form of helping you along your career. Instead of getting like a side hustle, instead of, I don't know, washing planes, like scholarships is where the money is at. And there's so many out there. I mean, talking to, for example, the CEO of Women Aviation, she talked about how all the time there's a lot of smaller scholarships out there that they don't get any applicants. There's my friend, he was talking with people that have a buttload of money collected for a scholarship, and they had like 10 applicants. Like, what are the chances for you to win? If you just kind of look beyond big type rating scholarships and start collecting, $1,000 at a time, I mean, after a while, that can pay off an entire rating. So scholarships are super powerful. And for anyone that's looking to really diving in, my partner, he was given in high school a collection of winning college essays or winning scholarship essays, and was able to kind of see what these winning essays look like. And eventually he ended up winning his own scholarship of $30,000, where he was the one that got flown out to all these amazing places like Oshkosh and the Caribbean, and all because he wrote just a killer essay. So money is a battle, and it's definitely a barrier to entry. But if you really dedicate yourself, like my one friend who applied 3 a day, it can definitely pay off for sure.
Can PPOT help dig up and identify kind of where to look for scholarships and help with that?
Yeah, certainly. Your mentor for sure. We have our own scholarship. We partner with Aviation, which is a company responsible for Log 10 Pro.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Big fan.
And so that scholarship just closed. And so, yeah, we can definitely help out a pilot find more of those dollars.
Yeah, it's an expensive hobby, but you know what? It's not 8 years of med school, right? It's not. It really, really is the opportunity, the income opportunity, the potential in this world is so great. But the barrier for entry is very high, especially if you're not from a family of means. And that I had to get my training through the military because that was the only option. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, North Carolina, and there was no flying. There's still no flying to this day out there. It's just nothing. And so that finding your scholarships, digging that, turning over every stone for it is just so impactful and important. And so I can't stress that enough. So my future pilot that's listening, that's trying to figure it out, like, this is where we start. So how do we get a hold of you, Jess? How do we find organization? Where are you located?
Yeah, so we're a totally virtual organization. So the internet,
the internet, I've heard of this.
theppot.org is our website, and that'll have all of our resources. That's where you can apply. either as a mentor or as a mentee, interested pilot or interested mentor. We are all on social media. So Instagram, we're at Professional Pilots. Facebook, I think, is also Professional Pilots. But yeah, I think theppot.org is your best bet.
Great. I'm going to put all those links in the show notes. I'm also going to put your bio in the show notes so people know how awesome you are. And if you want to reach out to Jess and you want to reach out to the organization, I highly recommend it. You owe it to yourself to not try to do this alone. You'll never find a group of people with bigger hearts. The pilot group is so focused on just giving back. It's so funny to just see how open people's hearts are. And so don't be afraid of it. It's a vast landscape. And so the first thing you can do is take a step forward, go to the PPOT website, hit them up on Instagram, on the Book of Faces, on all of those things, and start to get yourself involved. You can probably find them on LinkedIn too.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. I want you to tell me what it was like when you interviewed at Delta before you leave us.
Oh boy, I was a nervous wreck. Not only because, it is the best and worst day of your life, but I had a bunch of other interviews coming up or that had just occurred. I was just finishing up my upgrade training and it was all coming to a head, for my dream job at Delta Airlines. So coming in there, I was a nervous wreck. I had done so much work, so much studying, interview prep, and, today was the day. So what was awesome was when I was in the holding tank, because I was lucky with my last name that I was pretty much at the very end of the day. So I had about
That's right.
5 hours of waiting. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, I did the step 1, the COG assessment, and I had to wait 5 hours before I had to do anything else. So it was a lot of waiting around. But while I was waiting around, speaking on the power of mentorship, I ran into a Delta pilot that I had met at a conference, and she was an interviewer. I didn't even know that she was an interviewer.
You're kidding.
And she goes up to me. She's like, "Oh my gosh, you got the interview. Congratulations." I'm like, "Thank you so much. It's really good to see you." And she grabbed both of my shoulders with both of her hands and she shook me. She's like, "You got this. Like, just breathe. Be yourself. You got this." And it was exactly what I needed to hear. Like, it was an aggressive, positive affirmation that I needed to hear that day. And 30 minutes later, I went into my panel. I killed it. I did so good. I felt so good about it. And, I went into the next step and the CJO came out and she was there and it just made it all better. It was such a good moment, but I was losing it. It was not graceful, at least in my head. Hopefully from the outside, I didn't look it. But I guess I think another funny mini story from within that panel interview, they told me, like, "Okay, we're all going to introduce ourselves and then we'll move on with the interview." I was like, "Okay, cool." So the one guy introduces himself. He was a pilot. The other woman introduces himself. She was a pilot, I think, out of Atlanta. The HR person, she introduced herself. They're all very sweet introductions, and they all look at me. And it's about 4 seconds of silence that, you could have heard a pin drop. And I was like, "Oh, wait, you want me to talk about myself? Is this the time where I do my 5-minute intro that I've practiced a million times?" And I was like, "Oh dear, okay." So I I hit the ground running with my intro, and I'm talking a million miles an hour. I'm like, "Wait, Jessica, we practiced this. Breathe, slow down." And then I think it took 5.5 minutes, but I was able to kind of pull it back, control it, and the rest of the panel went great. So, I wasn't graceful, through the whole day. I was a nervous wreck, but, I came out the other side with the CGO, and here we are now. So
I know, it's so exciting. And that's the level of stress that you put on yourself when you are sitting in that interview room and you're in that suit and you're thinking, "Well, it's the last suit I'm ever going to buy. I'm going to be buried in this suit." Like, this is the point where it all comes together. And the first thing you do is just kind of spaz and sit there and like not complete the nonverbal cues. Oh my gosh. That I absolutely understand that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for telling the pilot all about Professional Pilots of Tomorrow. And I think that I really hope that our listener will reach out and to move forward, because it is just such an important organization. So Oh, thank you so much. You're the best.
Oh.
It's so fun to always sit here and talk to you. So thank you for joining
Thanks, Nick. Thank you and Spitfire for having me. It really means a lot. So
us. Rock and roll. Well, we will chat with you later. Thank you. Hey, before I let you go, I need to mention one thing because a lot of people are asking me, can you do anything? Can you help me with this? And the answer is yes. At Spitfire Elite, we will make more millionaires this year than Major League Baseball will make in the next 5 years. Our company actually does this. It's called Spitfire Elite Interview Consulting. And you can find us over at SpitfireElite.com. Our clients, they call us the easy button for interview prep because everything you need to crush your interview is there in one spot. Whether it's application review or interview prep, all of it is covered. We've helped thousands of clients who are now flying at their dream jobs because our coaches gave them the one-on-one feedback that they needed to succeed on the biggest day of their life. The best part of Spitfire is our community. All Spitfire clients will get access to our private chats where they can work with each other and they can work with our coaches and get the latest information on all the airlines. If you'd like to make sure that you are 100% ready to go on your big day, there is only one choice. Everything you need is in one place, and I think it's pretty affordable. You'll have to take a look for yourself. Just go over to SpitfireElite.com and check us out. Use the coupon code PODCAST and it'll save you 10%. And by the way, I will see you on the next episode. The statements made on this show are my own opinions and do not reflect, nor are they under any direction from my employer.